Hey everybody,
Hi, everyone.
Mr. and Mrs. Traveler here.
It's Ilka's Glam at home on this rainy day.
All right, so today, guys, we're talking about what are all those crazy boat nautical terms that you hear when people start getting all fancy with their boat words.
Yeah, they get uppity, and you have to put the pinky finger up, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Let's learn today.
So we're going to talk about all those crazy nautical terms and tell you what they mean, including our most popular question to ask. If I book my cabin on the port side of the ship, will I be on the port every time we go to an island? We'll
Let's
talk about it.
let's get started.
All right, everybody. So, welcome back. Thank you for tuning in today as we talk about all those crazy nautical terms.
Yes, I want to know what I'm talking about when I'm cruising. I want to know what port side means, what starboard, aft, all those weird terms that I normally don't use every single day.
So, we're going to talk about what some of the terms are, and then some of them I'll actually give you some history on where they came from and try to help make a little bit of sense out of this. So, Miss Traveler has no idea the things I'm going to come up with here, so
I really
I'm
don't.
looking forward to her expressions as we go through these.
You know I tell everything on my face, so let's get started.
Okay, so first of all, this one is like a fun fact. Did you know that radar on a ship, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have your radar, did you know that radar stands for radio detecting and ranging? It actually is an acronym.
No, it's not. Really?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
So
Radar. Is that where the word root came from?
yeah, it's an acronym.
That's
Radio.
very interesting.
Yep. Radio detecting and ranging. Radar.
Okay, that makes sense now.
Who knew?
Not me. Let's keep going because I'm learning today.
Okay. Do you know what the beam of a ship is?
No, I don't. I would think that it's usually a beam is like in Star Wars
You beam.
where they shoot. I used to call it the lifesaver, but that's not it.
The beam is the width of a ship.
Really?
Right. So they'll say, like if you're listening to somebody talk about a yacht or something, and they might go into the stateroom and they'll look at it and they'll say, "Oh, they have a full beam.
So it's how wide the ship
It's
is.
how wide it is."
Oh, really?
Yes,
I did not know that either.
that is the width of the ship.
Okay, so when we buy our multi-million-dollar yacht one day, I will know what a beam is.
Indeed.
Makes sense.
While I'm on the subject of it, one I didn't look up, but I remembered as I'm talking about. Do you know what draft is?
Draft sounds like a cold push of air coming through.
It would be a draft as well. But draft for nautical terms is the depth that a ship, the minimum depth that a ship needs to maintain buoyancy in a body of water.
I had no idea what that meant. That's totally different from what I was thinking.
So, so a ship may have a draft of 20 feet, which means that the body of the water that they're in has to be at least 20 feet deep in order for the boat to stay afloat. If it's anything less than that, the ship could run aground or it could actually capsize because it won't have enough buoyancy.
Now, I do know what run aground means. That's bad.
It's very bad.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the easy one, berth. It actually has three terms for a berth. It could be a location in the harbor
Okay.
where the ship anchors, a bed or a sleeping spot on a ship, that's your berth,
Really?
or the safety margin that a ship needs. So if you ever heard somebody say you have to give this ship a wide berth, it needs a lot of room to turn.
Yeah. I've
So it's a
heard
berth.
that before.
Easy one for you. Galley,
The galley is where you eat.
kitchen.
Okay, it's the kitchen. Okay.
That's an easy one.
That was easy.
Another easy one for you, head.
No, I think that's either.
You've heard me say that a bunch of times.
Is that the bathroom?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, yep. I heard Mr. Traveler say that quite some time when we was going around looking at yachts, dreaming, hoping, praying that one day we get one. And thank everybody for your super chats and your Patreons because we're getting closer and closer. But yeah, he would say there's a head, and I'm like, no, that's the bathroom. No, that's the nautical term.
How about a helm?
Now I don't know that one.
That is the steering wheel on the ship.
Is it really?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's the helm on there. Okay, so now here's some terms you hear not that you might be on the ship or you're booking something. You might hear somebody say the windward or the leeward islands.
Oh no, I don't know that. But
So-
I have been there before.
Right.
I just
So-
don't know what it stands for.
So, when people, and you may even see in them the itineraries described as cruising the Windward Islands or the Leeward Islands. So the Windward Islands are actually upwind from the path of the wind. So, basically you have the current that comes off the coast of Africa, and that's what the hurricanes usually travel on, right?
Or the sandstorms that come.
Or the
through.
sandstorms, right? So those islands are upwind from there, which are Grenada, St. Vincent, the Grenadines, St. Lucia, and Dominica.
The Grenadines is one of my favorite because it always smells like nutmeg.
Yep, those are the Windward Islands.
And I can smell the wind blowing the seasonings when we are cruising.
It's
So,
very nice. And then the Leeward Islands are the Virgin Islands, Anguilla, Antigua up in there. So
That's very
a little bit
interesting.
further north. So if you look at the far easterly chain of islands that make up the Caribbean, they're the Eastern Caribbean. The northern part of that would be the Leeward Islands, and the southern part would be the Windward.
that's very interesting. Thank you for sharing that.
Not a problem. Okay, so now here's a good one that people probably may or may not know. So when you're on board a ship and you maybe turn to the channel and you see the ship, it'll say the ship speed, and it may say, what does it say? 18 knots.
It has a whole bunch of things. I don't want to say stuff. It has a whole bunch of terms on it when we're turning the channel when we're on a cruise.
Right.
You get to that one channel and it's very
Or,
confusing.
or sometimes it's out on the about the ship. They'll have the information on there,
Yeah,
but
it have the time, the tons, weight, and everything else on it.
right. So,
Knots.
but they'll have the speed on there, and it'll say the ship is going so many knots, 18 knots, 19 knots, 20 knots, whatever the case may be. So you may wonder how that came about. Well, back in the day, way back in the day, sailors used to determine their speed by physically using rope knots.
Really?
So they would take a piece of wood, it's usually like a flat triangular piece of wood. They tie a rope to it, and then every so often in the rope, a measured distance, they would tie a knot.
That is
And then
so
same distance, they
interesting.
tie another knot. And so they would have these knots on there. They would throw the piece of wood over the side of the ship, and then they would count the knots as the ship passed each knot. And so if they, went past 15, they knew that they were doing 15 knots per hour.
The manual aspect of the history is so different from today with technology.
Yep.
Now everything is calculated electronically versus the manual way, but I'm sure
yeah.
that the captain, if anything happens with the electronics, the captain can always maneuver back to manual, right?
No, absolutely. So yeah, all your
As
captains,
far as the compass and everything.
yeah,
So,
all your captains had to go through rigorous hours of training and working in lower positions on board ships and vessels. To get to that rank of captain, you have to have so many hours before you can even get to that rank.
Speaking of which, we would like to thank each and every service person that has serviced America on the coastals, as far as the navies, marines, and everything else, and everybody who had to take care of us on the ocean or out of the ocean. Thank you so much for your services, because these are things that they have to know, and we would not be free without it.
So
Or them. So thank you so much.
indeed. So part of that training for the would-be captains and all the seamen that are on there aspiring for those levels is to know how to manually navigate.
Especially the Navy.
Yes. And so they learn to navigate using charts. They learn to navigate using stars. Every time we're out there, we look
We
for
always look up.
the Orion's Belt, or we look for the Big Dipper and find the
do.
North Star. Those are ways that you navigate your north, south, east, and west.
Next time you cruise, make sure you look up and look at the stars and the constellations, because that's the way that our ancient history, novelties, which is, real. They actually looked up to find their ways. So
Yeah.
it's
It's
interesting.
it's
looking up there
amazing.
to imagine how old that is too, as well.
It's amazing that people actually like found their way based on those stars. But if you look at it, the North Star is always in the same position. You find the Big
Yeah.
Dipper, you find the hand, follow the pan, it's there.
And here in Florida, we have a lot of clear skies. We could just look up and see everything. And sometimes we take an app on our phone and we'll pan over and look at all the planets up there because it's amazing. God's earth is just, his work is fabulous.
It sure is, babe. So a knot is a little bit faster than a mile per hour, which is a land-based unit of measurement. A knot is 6,076 feet, and a mile is 5,280. So a knot is a little bit faster than mile per hour.
And this is considered boat speed or cruise speed.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
I'm learning today.
Yep. So that's the knot.
I feel like I'm having a class on boating.
Indeed.
It's great.
So we know the front of the ship is the bow. So what's the difference at the back of the ship if somebody calls it the aft or the stern? What's the difference?
You got me. Help us sister out. I don't know.
Okay, so they both basically mean the same thing. They're the rear of the ship.
Oh, really?
But you consider the aft of the ship when you're on board the ship. So
if I was standing on the ship,
so you'd
it would
say
be aft.
this venue is at the aft of the ship. So you know it's
Like
at the
dinner
back.
is in the back.
When we're standing out on the port looking at the ship, the back of the ship is the stern.
The stern. Oh, that was so good. I'm gonna be the next cruise. I'm gonna be so fancy with my wording.
Okay,
I just learned a lot today.
and then the one you've been waiting for. So if I book a cruise on the port side, will I always be on the port?
Right, that's the question that we get all the time when our clients come. So make sure our clients call. So make sure you call us as well. 877-697-4470, or we could be reached at www.mr-traveler.com. There's the number right there. You can give us a call if you're interested in cruising, going on a resort. Your anniversary is coming up. You need to plan your wife's birthday that you've been forgetting about because you're supposed to have known about it for a year. Give us a call and we can help you out with that. We would be more than happy to help you plan that. All you gotta do is pack your bag and go. And if you want to continue this conversation and you want to go ahead and go use social media savvy and you know all the hip words now, you want to talk about it, hit us up on Facebook on Mr. Traveler Cruise Lovers, where we go over there and continue our conversations. All you have to do is answer 3 simple questions. That way we know you're not a robot
Indeed.
spamming, and we'll be able to go ahead and add you in, and we can go ahead and continue the conversations over there. And thank you so much for joining us.
All right. So yes, thank you very much. And so the answer to the question is, if you book a portside cabin, will you always be on the port? The answer is no.
Of course not, because that's not what happened the last time me and Mr. Traveler was on.
We
port
just
side.
had a portside cabin, and I think the only time we were at port was when we were getting on and off the ship
And that was
in Port Canaveral.
The captain flipped the ship every single day.
Yep.
Every day we were backwards from the port, but we were on port side with our room, but we never saw, where the guys tie up the lines. We like to watch stuff like that and
Yep.
watch us take off and pull off from the docks. We weren't able to see any of that on this one.
So if you don't know, if you're standing on board a ship, on the aft, let's say you're on the aft of the ship,
Which is the back.
the back, and you're standing on the ship at the back, looking forward towards the bow. The right-hand side of the ship is the starboard. The left side of the ship is considered the port. And so if you're standing on the front of the ship, looking towards the back, now to your left is the starboard, and to your right is the port. And it's important for them to make those distinctions, because if you said there's an emergency and you said, hey, your lifeboat is on the left side of the ship.
Who's left?
Yeah, who's left? What if you're at the front of the ship running towards the back? You're like, okay, I'm going over here. Nope. at maybe the wrong side of the ship.
That's true. And how I remember a quick way to do it is Mr. Traveler told me this trick is port is also the same letters as left. So left is port.
So, so that's an important distinction to make. And so now the history on that is back in the day, the ships would have a rudder that they would steer with, right? And usually like a manual rudder. Most people, majority of people in the world are right-handed.
Okay.
And so that steering oar was always on the right-hand side of the ship. So they would, kind of guide the ship from here. And that piece of wood that was steering the ship wasn't called a rudder. It was called a starboard, a starboard. It's like Scandinavian, so I'm probably not pronouncing it properly.
You're doing
but
a
it's
good
like
job.
a sternboard. And through history, it was translated into starboard, and that's what that meant.
Very interesting. So interesting how things change down our history, and it's great to go back and take a look at it. We like to do that. We are history buffs, and we like to see where things come from. Yep. Hopefully you do too. If you're enjoying this video, give us a thumbs up.
And so as they're sitting, first of all, it's easier because the sternboard was on this side of the ship. It's easier for them to guide the ship into the port with the left-hand side of the ship. Because if they try to get it from the right hand, they may break the sternboard. But it was just easier for them to guide in there. So the other word was bayboard, something to that. I'm saying it wrong. It's Scandinavian. Like, okay, if you're making fun of me, like you go to IKEA and pronounce all the stuff that's in there.
You can't do it.
Okay,
it's very complicated.
So the word literally translates to back because their back was at it, and eventually, because of the way that the sternboard was situated, and they always went into the port on that side, it became the port side of the ship.
Okay.
So it became the starboard and the port side of the ship.
That makes sense.
So I hope that's a little bit of history for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I've been wanting to do this video for a while to kind of talk about some of the nautical terms out there.
I have to keep using the terms in order to remember them. I'm not like Mr. Traveler where you can tell him something, boom, he got it. Me, I have to actually use it. I'm a hands-on person. So I have to go on the next cruise and use all those terms I learned. And then hopefully we can get Mr. Traveler a boat real soon because he definitely loves to be on the sea and he loves everything about the sea. And he wants that boat and we're going to get it. But I'm not sure when. But we will one day. I wouldn't mind being on there either.
Indeed.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this video. I want to thank you for watching.
Thank you so much. Make sure you tune in for our next video, which is coming up on Thursday. And then we go live on Sundays. And we have news coming up on Thursdays as well, cruise news. So that's our news series that's coming out. And we appreciate you being patient with us. Thank you so much for watching.
Life short, guys.
Have fun.
See the world.
And be blessed wherever you are.
Bye guys.